Coming up,
this place is unique. And if you come here, you'll see it. You'll feel it.
explore the original homelands of the Cherokee people with biologist Caleb Hickman as he shows how important a healthy ecosystem is for our future. And see what life was like in 19th century Cherokee Nation with David Fowler, a passionate Cherokee historian. And
I love what I do, and hopefully I've touched the lives of few people.
pastor, musician, and Cherokee linguist DJ McCarter shares his devotion to his faith, his community, and his language. Plus,
the Penn Indians were a secret society.
learn about the mysterious origin of the secretive Penn Indians and their influence on the Cherokee people.
The Cherokees.
A thriving American Indian tribe.
Our history.
Our culture.
Our people.
Our future.
The principles of a historic nation.
Sewn into the fabric of a modern world.
Hundreds of thousands strong.
Learning. Growing.
Succeeding.
And steadfast.
In the past, we have persevered through struggle.
But the future is ours to write.
Osiyo.
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 These are the voices of the Cherokee people.
Osiyo, I'm Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. Welcome to Tahlequah, Oklahoma, capital city of the Cherokee Nation. For generations, the Cherokee story has been told by others. Today, through this groundbreaking series, we're taking ownership of our own story and telling it as beautifully and authentically as we can. I hope you enjoy these profiles of our people, our language, our history, and our culture. And please make plans to come visit us sometime. Wado.
Osiyo, it's how we say hello in Cherokee. I'm your host, Jennifer Lauren, at the historic Fort Gibson Garrison, a place where many Cherokees took refuge during the U.S. Civil War. We'll have more on that coming up a little bit later in our Cherokee Almanac. While many people go out of their way to avoid some of nature's less majestic creatures, Cherokee biologist Caleb Hickman tells us why they are important to our traditions and to the environment, and why they should always be respected.
If you're from Oklahoma and you come out here to the homeland, you're going to find it familiar. I think that it could be because you may have grown up in the Ozarks and there's some similarities, or maybe there's some ingrained genetic tie to this place. But you'll see oak hickory forests, you'll see clear creeks, you'll see a biodiversity here like you won't see other places in the entire country. This place is unique, and if you come here, you'll see it, you'll feel it. Osiyo Nagad, Caleb Hickman Dawado. Hello everybody, I'm Caleb Hickman. I'm a biologist for the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. We study a variety of organisms, plants, animals, all game, non-game species. We study the cultural importance of these organisms, and we also do restoration of species that we need to bring back. Where we're at here is our homeland, and the ecosystem is a part of that homeland and our connection to it. So humans are part of the system, and animals as well, like this guy. So we have a couple of elk. So the elk like to interact with the system too. Historically, Cherokees, we lived with the system and we adapted. And today, ecologists have discovered that same perspective of living with the system. But we've known that for thousands of years. So now folks they want to tap us on the shoulder and ask us, hey, what do you know? How many here know duweka salamanders? Good? Huh? You guys have heard of them? You've got more species of salamanders here than anywhere on the entire planet. They're everywhere here. Their presence is an indicator of the health of our system. And I want the kids to understand that. When I came here, I learned this, and I heard it from several people. So I consider this traditional knowledge. One of the sayings is never drink from a branch, which is like a creek, right? Unless the water has rolled over 5 rocks and a lizard's back, which is salamander. So the salamander is an indicator of that water quality, whether you should drink it or not. And the water is very clean here. But historically, our ancestors used something like that to tell us about the system. And today, ecologists do the same thing. We have a few long-term projects where we monitor bat species. We could have up to 13 different species if they were all still around. A268, another female. But you look good. You are healthy. I'm not gonna mess with you anymore. Go. This is a small-footed bat. The colony looks like they're doing great up there. I haven't seen that many in a long time, so we thought that maybe the last few years we've checked, we've seen fewer and fewer up there, and we were starting to get a little worried. But I did see a few that were tagged from several years ago. It's a male, and he's healthy, doing good. I'm from Mays County, Oklahoma. I grew up in Pryor Creek, Oklahoma. And yeah, I grew up near a lake where I fished, hunted with my 3 brothers, lived outside pretty much. Climbed trees, built forts, like a lot of kids. I'm married. I have 2 boys, and they're little boys, Milo and Waylon. Milo Yona, I gave him a Cherokee name. And Waylon. In the creeks I grew up in, they're starting to deal with some problems, dealing, with some pollution. And, we still have endangered species there and here, so we're all dealing with things like climate change. But human development is a big problem, and back home I know this. And that's something you can see. You can see it on the landscape. When I go home and visit, there's considerable changes every time. So that's concerning to me, that folks may not have clean water. And clean water for us is our medicine, and we need to have that. And in the hills I grew up near in Oklahoma, I know a lot of people that are tied to that.
Oh, good job, buddy. Did you get a crawdad?
To make sure that this water is clean, not only for the people right now, but your kids, your grandkids, 7 generations away, make sure that it's clean. It's our responsibility to do that. We have to do that. I think my legacy, I want to know that I connected people, that I did something that Cherokees could be proud of, but also that maybe even the U.S. government and other governments beyond us could learn from us, because I think they can.
David Fowler is a walking history book, overseeing properties for the Oklahoma Historical Society, ensuring that our history is preserved and shared with the masses.
Living history is a preservation of something from our past. It's a skill or a trade or a way of doing something. To be a Cherokee and to be able to be a Cherokee historian, not just someone who tells history of the Cherokee, is probably my proudest thing that I can do. My name is David Fowler. I am the Northeast Regional Director for the Oklahoma Historical Society. I administer to 4 historic sites in Northeast Oklahoma. Fort Gibson Historic Site, Hunter's Home Historic Site, which is in Park Hill, Oklahoma. Pawnee Bill Ranch, which is in Pawnee, Oklahoma. And Cabin Creek Battlefield, which is in Pensacola, Oklahoma. I grew up in a small town in southeast Kansas called Altamont. I spent my summers with my grandparents in Veneta, Oklahoma. My grandfather was in the American Legion, and so I would sit around and listen to all those old veterans talk about World War II, and it kind of inspired me as a young kid to learn a little more about our history. I have a bachelor's degree in history from Northeastern State University. I was kind of a non-traditional student. I had been out of high school almost 10 years before I decided to go to college. So I came to Hunter's Home as the site director in 2008. As a regional director, I have to wear kind of 2 hats. I take care of a region and make sure that everything is flowing good, the programs are happening, but then I also have to serve as a site director on a daily basis at Hunter's Home. So it can be a little challenging, but I love my job and wouldn't trade it for anything. So at Hunter's Home, we focus on the mid-19th century, which is from the 1850s to shortly after the American Civil War in 1868. I love sharing Cherokee history, because sometimes it's really kind of neat because you get to set a record straight. I remember one time I picked up an article and I was reading through it, and it made a mention that there was no large-scale farming in Indian Territory prior to, statehood or the opening of the lands, out in the West in what would be Oklahoma. And I thought, that's just really not true. We know that there were all kinds of agricultural endeavors that were going on within Cherokee Nation prior to that time. One of our goals here at Hunter's Home in Park Hill, we would like to see this become a working farm like it was in the 19th century. We have a small kitchen garden. We have about an acre cornfield, and of course now we've introduced sheep, and we always have poultry. My favorite part of my job, and if I could do it a little bit more often, is definitely being able to dress out, put my 19th century clothing on, and work the farm at Hunter's Home. I love doing that. I like having my hands in the dirt, and then being able to take all of this that you're growing and bring it back into a place like we do at the cabin here, and cook something out of that or preserve that. I'm making this connection with what my ancestors did. And I like to feed people, even in the modern world, it's something I get from my mom and my grandmother. It's just, food, eat this, So the dish that I prepared today is hominy and pork. This is a traditional dish that you would see that kind of takes hold once hogs make their way into Cherokee Nation. It's amazing at how, really good, corn and pork, marry up together, and you can make a lot of incredible dishes with the two of them, together. I like to learn by doing things, and I like to teach in that same fashion.
Working with Dave was never boring. If we're traveling to a conference or something like that. The man is a walking encyclopedia, and so if you are riding in the vehicle with him, going from Tahlequah to Arkansas, for example, he will point out where every single building that has ever been in the history of the state of Oklahoma or Arkansas is.
I gather most of my information really not from reading, although I do read. I have to read it over and over again, but I collect it through listening. A lot more. I remember one time Hastings Shade walked into a classroom when I was in college, and he said, shut your books, I'm gonna tell you a story. And so he made everybody shut our books, and we couldn't write any notes. And to me, I was like, okay, I like this. This I can, because I can collect that, and I can take that back with me. My brain works in that fashion. And if you're locked in the vehicle with me, I'm sorry, I'm gonna lay it all on you. So one year, this little girl came out, and she'd spent probably 2 hours just asking me 5,000 questions, question after question after question. And so, You know, she got up and she walked off, and she reached out, she picked up something, and she started walking back towards me. And so she had this big dried sycamore leaf, and she goes, "Here, I wanted to give this to you because you were nice." Hopefully she'll remember that and go, "You know what, history was a cool thing because, you know, I talked to a fun guy." I take what I do very seriously, but I also love it and I have fun. What's the point in having your dream job if you don't enjoy it every day when you get up? I hope that I'm always a historian until the day they put me in the ground, and I love to teach and don't want to stop.
In the mid-19th century, with the Cherokee Nation divided over issues such as slavery, assimilation, and the U.S. Civil War, a mysterious group arose. In this Cherokee Almanac, we'll explore ways the Pin Indians fought a war within a war. In the time leading up to the American Civil War, tensions were also mounting in the Cherokee Nation. Old resentments stemming from the Cherokee Nation's forced removal from the southeastern U.S. were simmering just under the surface. By the late 1850s, several secret societies emerged within the Cherokee Nation, divided along political ideologies. One of the most mysterious of these groups came to be known as the Pin Indians.
The Pin Indians were a secret society that was part of a larger group that was known as the Kituah Society. They were anti-slavery. They were trying to uphold those traditional Cherokee values, and the Pins were actually born out of that.
Influenced by Baptist minister Evan Jones and his son John, a group of community leaders from across the Cherokee Nation met in secret on April 29, 1859. They created a constitution for their own secret organization. In private, they referred to themselves as the Kituah Society.
And along comes, some of the Baptist ministers, Reverend Jones. He reminded a lot of people who were traditionalists in their beliefs in Cherokee tradition that the Southern way in slavery did not fit into their world.
In order to safely recognize one another, the group had a unique way of identifying its members, including code words, a secret handshake, and a hidden symbol on their lapels.
Because it was somewhat of a secret society, and they would wear pins on the backside of their lapel so that they could identify each other. They were crossed sewing needles. Other times it was actually a pin that looks very much like what we see as a breast cancer ribbon today.
The way that they become known is because they introduced each other, were meeting each other. They would sometimes fix the collar or the lapel on the other gentleman's jacket, and you could feel underneath that there was a pin under there.
Very little was known about the Pin Indians themselves at the time, in part because members who divulged Kituah Society secrets agreed that in doing so, they would forfeit their own lives. As the U.S. Civil War broke out, many Pins declined to join the Union Army, opting instead to engage in guerrilla warfare against Confederate Cherokees here at home. The Pins' tactics took many forms and were often brutal.
If you're desperate for resources, you'll often do desperate things to get those resources. And that is no less true of women who were living through war.
If the Pins come by, they see someone is doing very prosperous, they may take them as a Confederate sympathizer, they'll take their food. A lot of times they'll burn their houses so that they'll leave the area and they cannot use those resources again. And likewise, the Confederate troops are doing the same. To be a civilian and be out on your homestead was a very dangerous thing.
The Civil War is something that I don't think that we acknowledge enough on how much loss and devastation there was for our people at that point. Not only the loss of life, but you had so many Cherokees just fleeing the nation. We were at war with each other a lot.
The Civil War resulted in the death of more than 1/5 of the Cherokee population. 1/3 of married Cherokee women became widows, and many children became orphans.
Once the war is over with, we see things in the Cherokee Nation that we'd never seen before, like an orphanage. We see, the creation of an insane asylum. There was not a family that was living in Cherokee Nation that was not affected by this war.
After the Civil War, as the Cherokee Nation slowly begins the task of rebuilding what was lost, the Pins quietly begin to merge back into Cherokee society at large. Traditionalists and so-called progressive Cherokees work to heal long-standing rifts.
That there is a political realignment that happens after the Civil War. John Ross is dead. We have Stan Waddy dying shortly thereafter. And so these old personalities that are attached to those political divides are no longer in the mix.
And then you don't read or hear much about them after the Civil War. I don't think we'll ever know who all was a Pin Indian.
The Pins remain an enduring mystery in Cherokee Nation's past, a family secret that new generations continue to guard closely.
Jalaki Ede Wonihi. Let's talk Cherokee.
Hi, Sinas. What are you doing?
Osiyo Uworia. Jalaki Ede Woni's guesty.
What?
Oh, stop.
Sinas, kadoha dane?
Kane Jonska. Inante Joga.
Ni ejula yinane joga.
Osta Nadana.
A humble man of faith and a first-language Cherokee speaker, DJ McCarter lives a life of service and dedication to his community. Whether he's delivering a sermon or singing a few Cherokee hymns, DJ's passion is undeniable.
December the 1st in 1972 is whenever we moved in here. No furniture, just had a 3/4 bed. That's all we had. I'm DJ McCarter, and I was born and raised in Briggs Flat. And this is my wife.
No, Francis McCarter.
We lived off the land. Didn't have money to buy anything. My dad would say, all right, boys, let's go get some supper. We'd go squirrel hunting, go rabbit hunting, or go fishing. I didn't learn how to speak English till I was about 5 years old. And that's all we taught was Cherokee. And we'd have square dances at home on Friday nights. And it just hold down music, fiddling, guitars. And that's how I learned how to play guitar, watching my uncles play. Started playing in beer joints when I was 14 years old. The time I was 18 years old, I was playing in a band that started drinking beer and then moving from beer to whiskey, moonshine. The time I was 24 years old, I was a full-blown alcoholic. It was a miserable life. Then I met her, and then she invited me to go to church with her. And the first time, it was in July of '72, that I actually heard what Jesus Christ had done for me. Whenever that missionary put his arm around me and told me that Christ loved me so much that he died for me, he was buried, raised from the dead, made me mad. I mean, it made me mad. I didn't like anybody telling me what to do. I just told her, don't ever invite me to go to church with you anymore. Then after we got married, I was fixing a vehicle for somebody, don't remember who, putting an oil pan pack on. The on Wednesday night, she said, let's go to church. I came out from under the vehicle and I said, I told you never to invite me to go to church with you anymore. But I went and got saved that night. And I thank God for my wife, I really do. She's by my side all the time. I don't go anywhere without her. After I got saved, things changed. Oh, Lordy mercy, things changed. Christ changes things. And that was 49 years ago. And I can truthfully say, I've never been out of church. Church became my life. I became youth leader. I was the song leader, became Sunday school teacher. Then the Lord called me to preach in 76 and been pastoring ever since. And so this is our home here. This is our home. And I'm the pastor, but we're the servants of people. And I did a radio program probably 16 or 17 years by myself on KTLQ. And we read it in Cherokee and spoke in Cherokee. We didn't do it in English.
We're still in the...
And a lot of people would listen to it. I enjoy teaching the language. We're fighting to keep it alive. We're fighting. And that's why we have our church singings, to keep our songs going.
We just visit and go and sing for people, even though a person passes on and maybe they don't even know the Cherokee language, but they always generally ask for a Cherokee speaker, and usually it's DJ.
We've done, hopefully, what we were supposed to do. And I hope that we've left an influence. That's good. I love what I do. It's just been a pleasure serving Elm Tree Baptist Church as a pastor. I'm still learning, still growing. And hopefully that I've touched the lives of few people in a good way.
We hope you enjoyed our show. And remember, you can always watch entire episodes and share your favorite stories online at OsiyoTV. There is no Cherokee word for goodbye because we know we'll see you again. We say, Doda Dago Hunt'e. Wado.